I'm in the club right now, okay?
Yeah. It looks like you're in the club. There we go. So hello. I'm Heather Prisiansky. This is Monument to Millionaire. And I am joined, as always, with the gorgeous Stephanie Nikolic. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. We're all having like some funky internet stuff, and Stephanie looks like she's in a club, and we've got some fun stuff going on today. And I am also joined here today by Lee Tkachuk. How are you?
I am good. Thanks for having me.
Super excited for you to be here. Why don't you introduce yourself? I'm no good at introductions, so you'll be able to do it a whole lot better than I can.
Well, I am Lee Tkachuk. I am a serial entrepreneur. I have several businesses, a couple that are 8-figure, a couple that are 7-figure. Professional speaker, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Yay! Okay. Awesome.
Quick introduction.
Awesome. I've got like a dog butt kind of behind me here. She's just hanging out on my shoulder. So,
Totally cute.
yeah, they've got some bad allergies kicking up, both of the dogs today. So they're kind of sucky little babies and wanting to hang out on mama's lap. So, so you mentioned public speaking. So what is the topic that you brought for us then today?
Yes, I want to talk about being comfortable in front of an audience, whether it is for daily life or business or sales or anything, whether it's one person or 10,000 people. I keep getting asked a lot what you can do to become comfortable in front of an audience, or again, in front of just one person or talking to your children. You need to be able to communicate effectively, and you need to be able to do that through speaking. So there's my topic.
I love that. I'm super excited for this because I'm often asked the exact same thing. I don't tend to get nervous when I'm up speaking in front of people, which I think it's totally normal for people to get nervous when they're up speaking in front of people. It's just something that, ever since I was a kid, I've had a really easy time doing. And it's funny because I'm highly introverted. So if I go to a networking event, I'll be the person standing at the back of the room, like not talking to anyone, because I just can't even. I'm like in this shell. I'm just like, and so when I go to networking events, what I'll typically do is I will rent a room and a space, and I'll invite the few people that I really want to meet so that it's a smaller environment so that I can really thrive. But get me up on stage in front of like thousands of people and I'm totally cool. It's like a completely different energy. And I think that there are a lot of introverts who are like me in that way, that it is very different when you're up on stage, right, than when you're conversing face-to-face in a room. And for me, it's really an energy thing. It's having all of these people around me and being expected to like speak to this person over here and this person over here and this person over here. It's like very draining and very, it's not really a fear thing, but it's more of like an energy drain. And it's like, whew, I need to go sleep this off for a week. You know what I mean?
I get that. I'm exactly the same way. And I am not shy by any means. I'm definitely an introvert. What do they call it? An extroverted, an outgoing introvert.
Yeah.
As soon as I feel comfortable with someone, it's yep.
Right.
Or I'm on a stage and people are giving me feedback, I'm in my element. But I feel that clench in my stomach when I go into a room with people I don't know socially, or a networking event, and I need to realize that it's the same thing as being on a stage, because I get in front of 10,000 and the fear's gone.
Yeah.
I'm totally the opposite.
Are you?
I'm totally the opposite. Well, I'm okay with speaking in front of people now, but actually it was like a huge fear for me. But I'm very extroverted. I could totally show up at a networking event and be friends with everybody in that room before I leave, like no problem. But if you put me like speaking on a stage in front of people just a couple of years ago, even when I turned on my camera to do like we didn't have live stream then, to do a webinar or something, I would become like sweaty and like clammy, and I was freaking out. And for me, the way that I literally forced myself over it. I was like, this is freaking ridiculous. Why am I letting this get in the way? I'm like a total social person by nature. And I just want to explain the club light. So I'm like, my movie theater room right now, I promise I'm not in a nightclub. So anyway, I thought people probably should know that. I started by going to these local events where there were like these luncheons, I think hosted once a week, these like business builder luncheons. And you had to stand up in front of like 20 people maybe at a table and get up and introduce yourself. And to be completely honest, it was really hard at first. It was like I would be like over analyzing when it got to my turn at the table. What was I gonna say? How was I gonna mess it up? Could I even stand up? Oh my God, I felt all sweaty. Was I gonna show that I was sweating? Like, oh my God, it was ridiculous. But then I just started doing it. And then, weeks went by and it was like, well, okay, 20 people, it's not that big of a deal. And then I was invited to do something else where I had to speak in like in front of 75 people on a stage. And I did that. And it was a little nerve wracking, but I got through it. When I walked off the stage, I felt really good about it. And so I guess like getting over the fear is by doing. I guess that would be my biggest piece of advice, because I think whether it's going into a networking room and communicating with people and getting 5 contacts when you leave, or going on stage and speaking to hundreds of people, in my experience, which we both had kind of the opposite, but I feel like it's really important to go out there and just do it. Because if you let that fear own you, you will never be able to get over it. But if you just look at it and be like, yeah, I'm going to go up there, I'm going to do a good job, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and somebody needs to hear my message, then you can walk away and say, wow, that wasn't so bad, right?
Yeah.
So, even with live streaming, I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to turn on the camera because I'm not at my ideal weight, or how am I going to sound? People have said, I know, Heather, you've said that you were afraid of your voice for a while, that people have said things about your voice, that it's, whatever. I don't even know what they said, but I don't remember it. But that's the point, is just do it. Like there are people out there that need to hear what you have to say. And the only one that's going to stop you from carrying out that message is yourself. So,
yeah. I think
my biggest tip is for everyone when they're speaking, is to remember that you're the expert in whatever you're talking about. I don't care if you're talking about cotton candy. If you're talking about cotton candy, talk about cotton candy.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's important to know that you're the expert and they're there to listen to you. They don't judge, because I can guarantee you that every person in there is glad they're not the one speaking.
Yeah.
They're not looking at if your hair is straight or curly. They're not looking at, that you might have stumbled over your words for a second. They're there to hear your message, and that's all they're going to hear.
Yeah.
Is whatever you need to tell them.
And
part of being an introvert is getting to know your audience beforehand. A good ice-breaking thing is get to your room. And if you're giving a sales presentation to 15 people or even 4 people, or if you're giving a big presentation, get there 15, 30 minutes early and meet a few people beforehand. Because you have somebody to look at. We all want to look at somebody friendly. Or somebody mean so we can laugh at them. You're not total strangers. Because there's nothing worse than watching a speaker who doesn't look at the people they're talking to, or they'll look above their heads, or they'll look down the whole time, or they'll look at their notes. Speak from your heart, not necessarily from your head, and you'll do better. But know somebody in the room. Get there 15 minutes early. Drink enough water. Wear double deodorant.
Bring water, probably. I know I stand up and talk. I'm like,
Here's a great tip that I learned the hard way from watching other people. When you bring water with you, open it before you go on stage or before you go in a presentation room, because there's nothing worse than opening something and it's spilling all over you. So I watched a very public speaker do this on Met several years ago, and he opened a Diet Coke on stage and it sprayed all over him.
Oh, really?
And he was wearing a white polo.
Oh, no.
Or white polo, I should say. And if he had just opened it off stage, he would have brought it with him, he would have been better. So there are and he'll laugh about that if he ever saw this. He'd say, well, somebody remembered that, but I learned from it. Open it up. Like just now when I opened that, I spilled my water. So have that, and it's a crazy thing to say, but make sure that you go to the washroom before you go into any meeting or interview or anything, because when you're nervous.
That's true. It's so true. I think the other important thing, I love your tip on getting to know people ahead of time. And I think the other thing is just don't feel like you have to get up there and present like other people present, right? So some people will go up and they have big fancy slides and they have all these different things. And then other people, they might show up a very different way. Just show up in the way that you feel most comfortable, right? And so oftentimes when I do live presentations, I will coach live. And that's what I love to do. And that's how I typically love to teach. And so I don't always do this. If it's on a webinar or something like that, then I go more so into the presentation mode. But I love when we're live to actually bring people up out of the audience. And that's a really great way to connect with the audience, but you only have to really connect with that one person in front of you. So that, you know, now all of a sudden you're in this circle with that one person who's right there in front of you, and you can speak to them about your topic. And it doesn't matter what it is that you do, really and truly. I mean, you can take questions from the audience, right? Like you can really format your presentation in a very, very different way. You could plant people in the audience with a few questions to get them started too, right? Sometimes you ask for some questions or volunteer, and it's just crickets, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah.
We're all as great as everybody else. Yeah.
Right. And so that really comes
earlier.
Yeah. So plan a little bit ahead, or have a few Kickstarter questions that maybe you have written down that maybe your I don't know, your group or your audience or somebody like that has given to you, and just to say, well, here's some common ones that come up, and then get the ball rolling, and that can really help. But the easiest way to step past your fear is just to be you and to be really, really true to who you are. And so, you know, don't try to be something that you're not. I mean, I'm not going to show up in designer clothes because that's just not me. Like, I'd be so uncomfortable, and I'd be fidgeting with myself the entire time. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, if you wear high heels every single day, then you damn well better show up in them, because you're going to be super uncomfortable if you're in flats or if you're in whatever else, right? Like, you need to show up exactly as who you are, and make sure that, you know, your message is being heard, versus worrying about what people are thinking about what you look like or what your presentation looks like or anything else.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, I'm back. Sorry.
I would say you actually made a really good point. I think it's really important to know what your style is. Like, what is your style? You know, like it's not going to feel good if you're following somebody else's. Like, if you're not a slides person, don't have slides. You know, if you need to connect with people in advance, do that. If you want to throw out a couple questions, do that. Like, whatever it is, make sure it feels right to you. Because I think that's one of the things when you're trying to become another person or adapt their method, it's not going to feel right to you. And as a result, you're going to be super nervous or clammy when you would probably be comfortable if you just allowed kind of, for me, it's kind of like I have a couple parameters about what I want to say to keep me on track, like talking points, but then I go for it, because I know if it's like so well thought out, then I'm not going to remember something, and then I'm going to have to go back, and, you know, so I learned from my own experience what works for me personally. So I put a couple slides up because I really like pretty stuff, right? And I need for myself to stay on track, because I'm the girl in the heels on the stage. I don't care how bad they hurt. You will not see me barefoot. That's just me. That's not everybody. Yeah, so that's how I roll, and I know what works for me. So now I think that was part of the process of letting go of some of that discomfort associated with sharing your voice on stage, was being comfortable in the way that I present something, you know? So that's just something to be said.
And there's ways to get comfortable with that. There's formal ways, like go on Periscope, even if you don't have any viewers, because it gives you the practice and it disappears in 24 hours, or you can hit delete recording.
Right.
I was like, is Periscope still alive? Does that even exist anymore? No.
And it's still big, and I thought it would go like this with Facebook Live. It's actually coming back up.
Really?
So I'm like, oh.
There was a discussion about this the other day. I was like, I don't know. I never liked Periscope personally, but you're right. It's a good place because it disappears if you don't like what you say in 24 hours.
You can delete the replays too. So it's a good place to practice and see what you look like on it, because you can watch it before anybody else does, and it saves your camera roll. You can see that you're comfortable. You can go on Facebook Live, and even if there's nobody watching you, they might watch later, or again, you can delete it if you decide you don't like it. Those are good ways to practice, but then here are my informal ways to do it. When I am giving a presentation, I know I'm going to, I usually have at least a week, sometimes only a day, but sometimes months to prepare. I practice in my shower, in my car, when I'm brushing my teeth. I talk to myself constantly. If anyone put a camera on me, like I go, it's insane. I lip sync in the car.
Yes.
But I practice makes me very comfortable in front of people. And it really is important, like you said, to have your own style, but also have a backup. If you're doing presentation slides and that's all you're doing, and I do use them. I use slides to keep my timing on track. Not a lot on my slides. It's usually just pictures, but it keeps my timing. It keeps my focus. So I know that if I'm halfway through, I should be on slide 5. And it's just a timing thing for me. And if I'm going too fast, I can either slow down or know that I need to fill it with questions at the end. But one of the things is to have a backup, because the worst thing is to be so prepared and have these beautiful slides and then they don't work.
Yeah.
Have a backup, and an easy backup to have is an informal Q&A. Say, you know, these are the 5 questions I'm asked most often. Let's discuss those today. Something that simple ready.
I had this happen where it was like a tech thing. I actually had been prepared, which is very unlike me, but I printed off my slides before the presentation. So when I did go into the room, because I wasn't quite sure, the speakers were changing really quickly, when I went up and they couldn't get me connected, I didn't miss a beat, because at least I had the guidelines laid out. You know, they didn't get to see the slides, but you're right, there wasn't that much information on that. It was more as a guideline for me to stay on track. So, you know, you could always do that too. Just have them on note cards or simply go print them out. And I was at a big hotel and they were very kind enough to print them out for me. So thank God. The other thing you said about Facebook Live or Periscope, I think it's great for practicing, right? If there's no people, 10 people, 3 people, 300 people, 3,000 people, whatever, you will be able to break the fear of the public speaking, the fear that I used to have of just being in front of all these eyeballs on me. Now I pop on a camera, do a live stream webinar. I don't even think about it. Now I'm at the point where sometimes I don't even have my makeup on, and if I mess up a word or whatever, I don't even care. Like, because I actually think this world that we live in now has come back to the approach that being realistic over being polished wins every time. So if, you know, I make fun of myself sometimes if I say a word wrong. I'm like, I don't know, I can't even get the words out. I didn't even drink that wine yet, you know, like because that's how I am. So, and you just keep going and you kind of make your audience more comfortable, I think. Especially if you're in the online space and you have spoken to tens of thousands of people, people might think, well, she's not like me, you know, I'm just this like little person starting out. I haven't had all this experience yet. How can I do this? Well, create your own stage, turn on the camera, create your own stage, make your own audience, and at least get over that discomfort by just being yourself, you know, because I think maybe that's one of the biggest things. You think, I gotta act a certain way, I have to be a certain way to share my voice on stage. It's like, no, you don't. I've dropped the F-bomb on stage before, like, and it's totally fine because that's who I am. At least I'm keeping it consistent, right?
Yeah.
I have a funny thing, like if I mess up, I'll say, and forget that part in the beginning where I said I'm a professional speaker. I can relate to that, I think, because we've all had things happen.
Right.
Another piece of advice that I always give is don't wear new shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you don't know how they're going to feel by the time you get out there. And I don't care who you are. If your feet hurt, this is your smile.
It's so true. It's so
That's actually
true.
part of my presentation on speaking. It's like that smile. You know, you're walking around, you're like, yeah, I see her.
Or what if they're slippery on the bottom? What if you slip getting on the stage because they're not like scuffed up beforehand? I mean,
I've totally done that. I've totally fallen like up the stage. Oh my gosh.
We've seen people do that at like, the Oscars and stuff.
Yeah. Actually, that's what I said. I was like, oh, I'm just like Jennifer Lawrence now, right? She did that.
If you can walk in heels, you should really have somebody videotape you so you don't look like a donkey. The shoes are important.
we're really just talking bloopers today. Okay?
Right?
There was one time that I had a, pull in my skirt, right? No.
But just be prepared and practice and know your stuff. Don't ever speak on something you don't know anything about unless you let them know ahead of time. I really don't know about this, but this is what they want me to talk about. And then change it yourself. Don't try to read someone else's script. I think one of the hardest things for a speaker to do, and again, whether you're doing it in everyday life or presenting results or a sales meeting or in front of a big group of people on stage, is it's really hard for someone else to do your presentation. So, and you can't do someone else's. So always write your own notes, always write everything, because they're only going to mean something to you. I actually had to go on stage behind someone who got sick, and I had her notes, and they said things like intro, hi, cherry. It kind of fit her slides, and I'm looking up and I'm like, I can't do this. So, and it was crazy because if somebody saw my notes, they're literally like words on a piece of paper. You can see that. But it says phone, Skype, PowerPoint, in person. That's for a thing I'm doing tonight on a different webinar. And if someone saw that, they'd be like, what the heck is this? So know what you're talking about and know that you can't fit into someone else's shoes. So if you are asked to present something for someone else, tell them right up, I can't give hers. I can give mine again, or I can talk about something different, but I can't give hers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just weird little random tidbits of advice here about speaking.
Yeah. Well, I think too, just going back to the fear thing, right? Like, don't you guys find that even if you have the butterflies, even if you have the fear, kind of once you get up there and 2 to 3 minutes in, that just all sort of goes away. Like, you're just in this element, you're in this zone, and all of that fear that really just amped you up and that made you feel like I can't freaking do this is completely gone. So if somebody is sitting there and saying like, I cannot do this, and therefore they don't even try, right? Just try it. Just try it, because I can guarantee that after you're up there for a couple minutes, all the fear is going to go away, and it's just going to be you talking to the audience. And it's just going to be you speaking the same thing that you've been speaking about over and over and over and over again, whether you've ever done it live in a presentation or whether it's just something you're an expert on and you could talk about it all freaking day and annoy everyone around you because you never shut up about it, right? Like if it's a topic that you could literally every time you're out for lunch with your friends, yeah, right? Like every time you're out for lunch with your friends, you're talking about this thing, you can tell their eyes are glazing over and they're like, I don't freaking care, Heather, right? Like you've talked about this so many times, I don't freaking care. That's a perfect thing to talk about in front of an audience because you're super passionate about it.
When you're thinking of a topic, a great way to do it is kind of brainstorm. And what is it that annoys everyone around you that can't tell this story one more time? There's your story.
Yeah.
Well, my mother says, could you be a little less happy sometimes? Can I talk about that? No, I'm kidding. Actually, I wanted to make a point about fear, though. So I talked to a lot of people about this, and fear is actually made up of emotion. Fear has no power. Absolutely this much. Zero, okay? The only power that fear has is the power that you choose to give it. So, the day you're going to do your first live stream or make your first appearance on a stage or something, are you going to choose fear or are you going to go up there and kick ass and take names? What are you going to do? What is that going to look like? And actually, I think it helps. And this is something that I apply to a lot of things in my business is envisioning the outcome, because we get so caught up in, oh my God, but what if they don't like me? Think about when you exit that stage or when you press wrap or whatever the button is, or publish on your iPhone or whatever it is that you're using to record your Periscope or your Facebook Live. What are they going to feel like when you actually deliver something that you do know a lot about, that people really need to hear, when you're in your element? What is it going to feel like when you wrap it up? It's going to feel exhilarating. It's going to feel amazing. You're going to feel accomplished. So stop getting caught up on those emotions that are connected with the anxiety of, I might mess up, I might do this. Who cares? None of that matters. We all mess up on a regular basis. It's called we're humans. But just focus on what you're going to feel like when you walk off the stage, and what you're going to feel like when you end your live stream. What is that going to do for you? And I think that will help you actually overcome your fear, because you'll feel, then your fear will translate into maybe a feeling of excitement. Like, you're right, I've got to do this and nothing's going to stop me because I do know everything about this topic and I am super inspired by it and everyone's telling me to shut up, but I don't care. I've got to keep talking. So my 2 cents, it's worked in many areas of my life and business that I have just thought about the desired outcome. Even if you're doing a big project or you're getting on the phone with a client, if you're talking, if you're thinking right off the bat, oh, this client's not going to work with me. Well, of course they're not going to, but if you're thinking this client's perfect for this program and I can't wait to get them in the program and it's going to be amazing because I'm going to help them make these major shifts in business, then that's what you're going to project during the rest of the phone call. So just keep that in your mind.
And also remember that some of the things that might look like bloopers become your story later and become funny about it. Your wedding. People will have big weddings. I have a huge wedding, 400 people, and we're so obsessed about what we're going to serve for dinner. I can guarantee you 25 years later, nobody remembers what I served for dinner. They might remember that one of our friends picked up mashed potatoes and dipped them in corn with sand. They're not going to remember that, we had a family style Italian or whatever. They're going to remember the beautiful parts, the inspiring parts, and the funny parts. My sister, I got married, I had a long train, and she was my maid of honor, and she swooped my train up like that to straighten it out, and the whole church saw my underwear.
I guarantee they'll remember that,
They do, and there's pictures too, but my friends are real kind to share them every once in a while on Facebook. Once a year for around 25 years. Those are the things that become the fun things. And, if you're on stage, and I've seen some great speakers, and one of them, Lewis House, brings someone on stage and salsa dances with them. And it's amazing. And it breaks the ice, and the person who first goes up there is like, no, I'm not doing this. But they're going to remember that forever, and they're going to remember that he was eligible, and they're going to pay attention the rest of the time. Just relax, because whatever you mess up is going to become the memorable, funny part, not the bad things. Nobody knows. Like, if you go on stage and you've got spinach in your teeth and you don't notice until later, that's going to become your story for the next years. Because the one time, like when I was at band camp, you have to do the movie reference, I think that there's so many little things you can do to prepare and to not be nervous. But the biggest is just breathe and be yourself.
Yeah.
No one wants to see someone painfully up there saying, and these are the different ways. You don't want to.
You'll be like, the people are snoozing. You're like, oh my God, that's painful for you too. It's not even just painful for the audience. It's painful for you. Like, I think there's a lot to be said on just being yourself, just going up there, delivering whatever the hell comes out of your mouth. It's what needs to be said sometimes. We're so caught up on like, oh my God, I need to make sure I say this. This is my personality type. Whenever I have like mapped everything out, I forget half the stuff I have mapped out. And then when I just go out there and I have a little bit of guidelines set using slides and I just deliver, it's like the best conversation and presentation I've ever had. And people are like, oh my God, and they're totally interacting, and it's awesome. So do what feels good to you. Obviously talk about what you're an expert on, as we talked about today, and just be yourself, whatever it is. If you're funny and quirky, or if you love to salsa dance, bring that into your presentation, or if you want to drink wine with them, whatever it is, like, do that.
Yeah. And
don't try to be someone you're not. If you're not someone that's going to wear a suit and, sensible pumps on stage or in everyday life, don't make it that way when you go in to say a sales meeting. And Stephanie, just to expand on what you said, there is no better high than when you nail it on a presentation. Even if you're just talking to two people in a sales meeting and you leave that room and that account is yours, there is nothing better. And they didn't buy your product, they didn't buy your service, they bought you. You. So if you're not a likable person, you shouldn't be presenting anyway. None of those people will be watching this, so you know that.
And it comes down to that confidence that you really portray as well, right? So make sure you're speaking on something that you're very, very confident in. But at the same time, right, if you don't feel confident in getting up on stage, that's totally cool. But when you get up there, take a deep breath. Like you said breathe, right? Like make sure you breathe. Because a lot of people get up there, you can tell they're just holding in their breath, and it appears really just not confident, and that doesn't come across in the way that they'd like it to. And if you listen to their words, they have some really fantastic things to say. But because they're not breathing and they're all like really uptight, right? Like it just becomes very, very difficult for the audience to receive the message, right? And so I tend to be somebody, I talk really fast. And so I need to get up and I need to be like, okay, Heather, slow down and breathe, right? It's that breath. And so some of the best speakers I've ever seen, they'll get up and they'll just do like a big collective, okay, everyone take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, sort of like the salsa dancing. It really is just that icebreaker type of thing. But it also helps to ground you, right? It also helps to really ground you in the space, ground you in the moment, and to get you into this is what I'm going to be speaking about, and to really help you, to really help your mind stay focused instead of the 10,000 different ways that it's going to go. Like, is there something in my teeth? Is my blouse see-through? Is my, you know, like, no, that's the other thing. So test your clothes beforehand. Don't wear something brand new, because I have seen people up on stage.
From all angles.
Yes. Yeah, and probably don't wear a white blouse. I mean, if you're up on stage and you know what I mean, depending on the lights, it could be see-through, right?
And make sure your bra glow in the dark.
And make sure you're freaking wearing a bra, because I actually did see one chick once. She was not wearing a bra, and that's all you could concentrate on the entire time, right? Was her boobs. Like, let's be honest. So as much as, you know, dress yourself, I've worn like really funky leggings and just like, you know, just like a tank top. And I do this all the time, especially back when I had my leggings business, because, well, hell, that's what I was selling, right? Like, that's what I did. And it's what I dress in every day. Like, I really, if I have to go to a place and I have to put on pants, like, I'm probably not going to go if I can't wear leggings, right? So, and everyone knows this about me. Like, if I could get black leggings, maybe dress them up, we're okay. But anything else. So really dress the part, dress yourself, but also know that you've tested that before. Don't go out and buy a brand new outfit and then get on stage and realize that the zipper doesn't work properly and you're like filling it the whole time trying to keep your dress done up, right? Like, test this stuff out, because it's going to help you to feel so much more comfortable, and it's going to be one less thing that you have to worry about the entire time that you're up there.
And just like they do on Broadway or movies, do a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
You know, put your whole outfit on down to your jewelry. Look in a full-length mirror. Take a couple pictures. Have your kid take pictures, or your neighbor, whoever, and practice it moving so that your necklace isn't going swinging, swinging, swinging. Or put your mic on, because if you're going to have a mic, make sure that it works. If you're going to have slides, make sure that your slides flow and that your clicker works if you're going to use a clicker. If you're just talking to one or two people, that's not as important. And have props. Glass of water, have a bottle of water. You can pause and reset if you forget something. Say, excuse me, take a drink. It works.
That's a good point, yeah.
And I warn everyone. It is. And I warn everyone before I speak. I'm like, I speak fast. We have a lot to cover. And just tell me to slow down or raise your hand if you have a question. In fact, let's practice that. Everybody say, slow down. And I don't like groups of 50 or more, or maybe even 20 or more, but, you know, a group of 2 would look at you like,
right. I think that's really important, though, to know what that audience is going to consist of and know how big that group is going to be before you go in, because the way that you interact with that audience is going to be very, very different, right? I mean, if there's only 2 or 3 people, like, I'm probably grabbing a chair and just sitting amongst them, because there's 2, like, if there's 2 people standing there, you know, like, how uncomfortable is that, right? So I'm pulling up a chair and I'm being like, hey, let's chat. We're just going to hang out at this table together. But if there's going to be 50, 100, 200,000 people, whatever it is, then you need to know that, because you need to start to build some of that engagement in, and your engagement is going to be very different, right? And knowing the way that the room is going to be set up is important as well, because if you build in that, you know, I'm going to take questions, but they need to raise their hand. Like, do you need a mic? Do you need somebody to go? Are you going to be able to hear that person ask the question? Or is it going to be set up in such a way that you're going to be able to move around the room to different tables? Like, how is that set up? Because if you build this engagement into your presentation and then you get up there and you're like, oh shit, I can't really hear them, right? Then that's going to be like this moment of panic that could arise. So just be utterly prepared for exactly how you're going to be able to answer those questions and build in that engagement. And if it's a large group, sometimes it's just so great to have people, like, you know, raise your hand if, or nod yes if, instead of trying to pull answers out of them in such a large group, right? There may be some tech issues with that.
I always use show of hand who, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
To get them moving too.
I would also say eat something at some point. Don't be like, I'm trying to be thin today, so I'm just going to fast, and then I'm going to go up on stage where I say you can pass out. Like, not a good thing. Like, a banana, something, like, before, so your stomach's not growling as you're up there. You're not ready to pass out. You know, maybe not a full Mexican feast before you go on stage, but like something that makes sense, you know, because I think we forget we're in this moment of anxiety and we're like, shoot, I didn't eat anything. Oh my God. It's not a good thing. Okay. Like your brain needs fuel too, so you can deliver what you need to deliver. So drink water, don't drink 12 cups of coffee that day. It's probably not a good idea. Use the restroom, eat something, either, you know, breakfast is in the morning, something that's normal that you know agrees with your stomach. I mean, this seems like regular stuff, but I think when you're in the moment, when you're about to, you're overthinking and overanalyzing everything. I know that I've done it before. You like forget to eat, to breathe, to drink water, to use the restroom, like normal stuff that we would do. So maybe make like a little checklist, you know, or something to keep yourself on track so you know you're doing what you need to do so you can go up there and really like deliver your presentation and freaking kill it.
Now, I provide a checklist to some of my coaching clients, and I'll do that in speaker training, but I have a checklist. You have to have a checklist, and it'll be stupid things like use mouthwash, you know, you're going to be talking to people or have a breath mint with you. I have different things. I always have an extra pair of shoes because sometimes when you fly and you get on that pair of shoes, they don't fit anymore. I have an extra pair of shoes. I also do not schedule something first thing in the morning. I'm not a morning person, and I know that. So I'm going to be running around like a crazy person at 6 o'clock if I have a 7:30 presentation, which makes no sense at all. I also like people to be awake. So I like to present at 10 or 11. And just be prepared. Have that personal checklist of yourself. It could be so silly as remember to bring your lip gloss or your lipstick. Another thing is to have those props like that water. But I'm going to tell you just the funniest thing that happened to me. It's scary funny. I went in. I thought I was presenting to a group of 5. I come out. It's auditorium style. It's hospital execs, so they're all kind of stodgy and, you know, all in suits, and there's 300 of them. And I had on a suit because I do wear a suit when I present in hospitals, and especially sales meetings, and I needed a minute to breathe. So what I did was I said, wow, there's more of you here than I thought. Give me a minute. This jacket's going to get too hot. And I walked over, I took my jacket off, I put it behind the chair, and gave me a minute to breathe. Because I needed that. The introvert of me was saying, run!
Why are there so many people here?
But it takes those few seconds to do something to ground yourself.
Yeah.
It's so important. And that's like taking that drink of water. You'll even see someone like Barbara Streisand or Oprah, they'll take a drink of water, and it's not because their throats are sore. They're using something called Speaker's Friend, which keeps you lubricated, your mouth lubricated. They're not thirsty. They need something to take that second to take away that fear. And have your props. If you normally wear glasses, wear glasses. If you don't wear glasses, don't wear glasses. You know, it's the same thing. If you're not a heavy jewelry person, that's going to be bugging you at your neck. If you're not used to wearing a necklace, you're going to be going like this. Or you're going to be pulling down your shirt. I'm sure you've all seen people presenting and they do this. Down their shirts. And
also, I want to say, what is the purpose of the talk you're doing, right? Like, know before you go in the room, what is the purpose? So what do you want to happen as a result of this? Even if it's a live stream, you should have a call to action of some sort. Like, can they connect with you? Do you have a slide with your contact information? Do you want them to get on your email list? Do you want them to opt?
No.
Your ideal people, and the thing that you're trying to get them to do doesn't work. And they're like, Stephanie, I don't know, this isn't working. Oh my God. You just like major flub, right? So these are things that you should test before. We have a function that's a text to join. So like they text a number with a word, I think it's like results or something, and they get on our email list that way. It's kind of like a new cool feature that you can use. So in the instance, you know, I had my assistant doing it herself, texting results to the number beforehand to make sure that it was actually going to our email address and being tagged in the appropriate campaign so that they're going to actually get what you said you were going to give them. That's pretty important. So I think, and I see it a lot on live stream where people are actually super visible. They're committing to doing lots of live streaming, but they're just talking. There's not actually they're not wrapping it up anyhow. Like, they're just talking, and then tomorrow they're talking about something different, and then they're talking about something different. It's like, well, that's great, but like, people are not going to do anything. They're not going to take any action unless you tell them what to do. So if you want them to take out their cell phones and send you a text message with a love letter in it, tell them to do that. Or if you want them to go visit one of your newest opt-ins, or buy a product, or hop on the phone with you, or wait for you in the back of the room if you're speaking live, ask them to do that, because people are not going to just assume that this is what they're supposed to do unless you specifically tell them to. And in front of you have such a greater impact when you're in front of people. So video is super impactful, but really live in person, there's nothing like it. So you have the opportunity to really get like 50% of the room, if you know your shit and you deliver something really valuable, to take action. So if you're there, don't miss out on an opportunity. You know, you could set the wheels in motion for a lot of other things in your life or business if you make sure you lay that groundwork and you just sprinkle those seeds right there before you exit the stage.
Yeah.
I agree with all that.
Yeah, I think that continuing the conversation is so important, because there might be, 5, 6 other speakers that they hear from over the given period of time of the event, right? You may not be the only speaker that they hear from that day. And so it's really important, too, that when you do have them sign up to something, you have some way of maybe tagging them to know where that person came from, so that you can send them a little welcome email that really refers back to what you spoke about that day, or that has your picture on it wearing the outfit that you wore on that day, right? So that they can just tie the two together to really understand that, oh yeah, this was a girl I really liked when she made this point, right? And you might just have your core 3 or 5 points that you spoke to, and just to say like, hey, that's a great one that I love to use. So when you're speaking, a lot of people, they want notes and they want this and they want that. And sometimes I'll just say like, hey, if you're a person who loves having notes, you can just sign up, take out your phone right now. We're going to sign up together, and you're going to get my note sheet for today. And that way you don't have to worry about it. You can just be here and be present. And that's a really great way of getting them onto your list, or getting their information so that you can keep in touch, and so that you can follow up and be like, hey, I'm this crazy chick who was up there with the crazy red hair and the leggings, and these were the things that I talked about, and they're going to remember you, and probably nobody else is doing that for them, right? So they're going to
forget any one of us, though, really.
True, it's true.
My classic ending is, most people have like an intro that everyone remembers, but the ending is so important, and I always say, I'm going to leave you with 3 things. If you remember nothing else, remember these 3 things. They are 1, 2, and I'll do whatever. And the third is, Lee Tkachuk has really great shoes. And that's how I end it. And they remember that.
Yeah.
I have to make sure I'm wearing really great shoes every time. But I'll even say that in a sales presentation to 2 or 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
If you take nothing else away, remember these 3 things. And then those are my 2 key things. And one of those key things might be, to get more information, my website is my name.
Yeah.
But I always end with that comment about the shoes. So
I love that. And I think that's a great way for us to wrap up here. We're kind of hitting close on time here. So Lee, if people wanted to get to know more about you and wanted to get in touch with you, where can they do that?
I don't have my little sheet. I'm www.leetkachuk.com. LEETKACHUK.com. I'm the same on Facebook, and I'm the same Periscope, Twitter, pretty much everywhere.
Awesome. So
thank you guys so much for having me. This was fun. It's like talking to friends in a room.
Yeah, it's super fun, right? We just kind of get in here and we just start to talk, and it's great because we're all entrepreneurs and we all love what we're talking about. So it's not like when you go out with your friends and they're like, I don't care. It's really fun. So if you guys came in halfway through the live stream here, and you do want to go back and you do want to hear what Lee has to say, and what myself and Stephanie have to say in this episode, you can check it out at monumentalmillionaire.com. And that's also where you can find Stephanie and I if you want to learn a little bit more about us too. So thank you, ladies, so much for being here today. And we will see you next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
And try to cut. This is always the fun part. It's like, there we go.
Here we go. Irma smile.
Yeah, exactly.